Welcome, everyone. Welcome to e-ink Roundtable number 3. My name is Brandon Boswell, and I'll be your host this afternoon. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We've got a wonderful matchup in store for you. We're going to have a face-off between the two newest e-ink tablets on the market. Introducing first, on my right, your left, representing the Tab Ultra C Pro, your challenger, weighing in at 2.2 pounds with its keyboard cover. There you go. Kit, don't bet against him, bets masters. And in the blue corner,
that's the spirit.
Your reigning best color e-ink tablet, weighing in at 1 pound 8 ounces with its cover, no keyboard, the Boox Note Air 3C. And representing the Note Air 3C will be your deep guide for just about everything, Voja.
Hello, everyone.
I'll be your referee and moderator, and I'll make sure that these two play fair. And I'll try and be as impartial as I can be over the next 5 rounds. But before we get into any discussion, is there anything that either of you two would like to say to those watching from home?
A bit surprised for a start that automatically this is considered the challenger. Certainly the Tab Ultra C has been my best, so the Pro I thought would go straight in at number 1. But we'll that's why we're here.
Well, I think you have to take the Note Air 3C as the default, and I think what most people would think of as the default.
Why? And I want to hear from the crowd as well. I was really loving to see this already. There's going to be some chat here. It's going to be really quite a bantersome and fun way to consider something that's going to give you a lot of information as well. You're absolutely right. It's the heavyweight, but I think it's a bit of a different class really. I think it's going to be the Note Air 3C is going to be punching up the weights here. So we will see. It's going to be a fascinating discussion. Just all have fun. By all means, your comments in the live comments are really useful as well, because it helps show YouTube that this is a really engaging live stream and that people are having fun here, and that it's going to recommend it to more people. So anything you can just say, just like cheer, like cool. If this referee, because this is an impartial referee apparently, this guy.
Obviously.
So like.
Apparently,
we'll see as we go through. If you think he's not playing fair, then you say that. That's it's all in the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think after these two give their opening arguments, I might weigh in a little bit. But from round to round, I'm going to be completely impartial. Voja, anything you want to add?
Well, no. I will let the tablets and the facts do the speaking. So,
is that a slight?
Very calm.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, no, wait. Oh no, not at all.
Not at all.
I have to keep the nose up,
All right. So for those of you watching at home, the way this is going to work is each of these two are going to have an opportunity to make an opening pitch for why their argument or why their device is the best and where it shines. And after which we'll pick 5 rounds that these two will argue that out on why their device is best. So please let us know down in the comments what you'd like to see them discuss after the opening arguments. And as always, if you have any questions, we'll try and hit those along the way. So, Kit, as the challenger, you'll have an opportunity to go first.
Okay, so I am going to demonstrate why this device is, I'm going to hopefully demonstrate not all of the features that I use, but why those are the features that mean that I hardly ever, excuse me, I'm trying to find the right one. I need to add that to the stage. I hardly ever use my laptop at home now. I have to use a laptop at work, but essentially this has replaced a laptop at home for me now. I do use my laptop when I travel, my Windows laptop when I travel, but that's only really for video editing on the go. And the reason why this is so great for me is, well, I consider myself a writer, and this is the format for that. We make content, all of us on YouTube, the 3 of us, and what I do really to make that content, the way that I approach that content is as a writer, and this is the format that lets me do that. This is the format. Okay, it's got the keyboard. I know that's the thing that jumps out, but this is the format for thinking through your writing and working through across multiple different apps, multiple different locations. I write into this device. So essentially, I write into Chrome and I write into the Xtiles sort of desktop quality browser here on this device, and I write into this. I write into Xtiles, the full Xtiles desktop here, and the way that I write is I use the there we are, straight in. You can see the stuff I've planned for this here. I use this. I use the voice recognition. Usually with the Boox keyboard, the voice recognition is really, really good. And then I stop it like this, and I go ahead and make any corrections and edits that I need to with this, with the actual keyboard. And I found also, by the way, incidentally, that the Google voice typing keyboard is really good because it's that bit smaller, and actually it works better, I find, with the actual type to make the edits, etc. And it's just a bit more continuous, and it's really, really useful, really, really excellent place to do that. So with that voice recognition, with the keyboard for editing, it's really, really good. Okay, it is really a compelling place for, if you're like me, if you write first, whatever your professional kind of use case is, if you're someone that needs to write to get your ideas out, to plan things, then this is the thing to do that. And I'd be honest, I have loved using the Note Air 3C. That was been an absolutely fantastic device. It's an excellent e-ink notebook. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of the good points of it in this stream. I found Voja's argument really compelling, especially this vertical case as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. And you know, the idea that you can just hook it up to an ergonomic keyboard at home when you need it. But for me, this just means that I have this really pleasant keyboard wherever I take this e-ink device, and then it can just be it can just be either an e-ink notebook, or it can be an e-ink. It's not a tablet PC, but it can be close to that. It can be close to that experience that we're hoping these are going for. If I'm at home, I'm going to work here on this desk with the big computer. I'm going to settle down either this big desk though, or I'm going to find anywhere I'm comfortable in my house, and I'm going to work on this setup here. And I'm going to be able to switch between that notebook and laptop style. I'm also going to be able to do that work wherever I am. And I've got all this RAM, and I've got more power for this really quick and slick switching between the different apps. That was a surprise that didn't exist there. And it's very slick. You can, of course, use full Android apps, and I do. One of the most common questions that I get asked about e-ink tablets is, can it integrate with Google Docs, or can it integrate with OneDrive? And of course, I know that the Note Air 3C can integrate with those two things as well, but this is just a better format for working on those places. In your Excel files, on your OneDrive, in your Google Docs, in your Sheets, anything like that. And I'm writing directly into whatever app that I need, and I can type, I can use voice, or I can use handwriting, or any mix of the three. And this format just makes all of it a real pleasure. So I just find this is the better place for me for doing those things, which are now what I use e-ink for. That is now the setup that I do. That is now what I expect with tablets, and that's why it's the better device for me.
All right. Well played. Very fair. Voja, your go. Did we lose Voja's voice? We did. Hold tight.
I was just unmute. I was muting myself so that I don't bother people so that we can listen to Kit's reason here. I'm trying to get myself. I'm trying to get myself in the center here, but for some reason, I'm unable to do that. Anyway, if I'm not able to get myself in the center, but
hang on, I'll sort that out. Sorry, just give me. Do you want yourself full screen?
No, I can have just you can have it side by side, me and the
you want the tablet as well?
Camera. Yeah, just vertical slice. So that one actually could work. So I absolutely agree with the points that Kit made about the keyboard itself, right? So that is the point. Here's my Note Air 3. So what I would just like to add is that all of the functionalities that Tab Ultra Pro has, you can, all of it can be done with the Note Air 3C as well, with the exception of you get the freedom to choose whichever keyboard you want to do that work on, and you can choose to have that keyboard the layout that you want. So for example, why does the Tab Ultra Pro doesn't work for me and any other non-English spoken customer is because Boox is not offering international or different language layouts. So if I am to kind of write and respond to my Norwegian friends, clients, or things like that, I can't do that with the Tab Ultra Pro. I would have to do something very, very strange. So even if I had Tab Ultra Pro, I would have to resort to using a custom keyboard, and then I would end up in the exact same place. So for me, that is one of the points. I guess we will be debating it. And here's just one example. This is like the first search that I did: portable, foldable Bluetooth keyboard. So I totally agree. I'm not going to lug around my ergonomic keyboard with me. And I totally agree that there's a lot to be said with a portable package, something that's self-contained. Granted, Note Air 3 can't do that, but you can actually do something like this, which is very portable, foldable, and plus you get a trackpad as well. So it's exactly the same thing. So you get all of the functionalities that the Tab Ultra Pro does. So for me, it's more of a question of when somebody's thinking about Tab Ultra C Pro or Note Air 3C. The argument that I'm going to try and make that is for Note Air 3C is going to depend on a couple of things. And the first question is, who needs a color e-ink device? Because those are the people who are going to be evaluating amongst others. These are probably top contenders to evaluate from. The second question would be, what do you need it to do? What do you want that device to do? And in that regards, Tab Ultra C Pro and Note Air 3C, they are virtually identical, provided, with this keyboard thingy that we've already discussed. But once you have a keyboard, it's pretty much the same thing. And then there's the question of who is the Note Air 3C for and who is it not for? And I think that is one of the important ones that I think probably will arise through the discussion, but those are the points that I'm going to try and kind of cover and make it a little bit more clear during our discussion and the show off or the showdown. Yes, that would be the right word, between the Tab Ultra C Pro and the Note Air 3C. However, I'm also going to try and pose one question, which is, why does the Tab Ultra C Pro even exist, and does it need to exist? So that's my side of the thing, my intro.
All right. So, Kit, before I throw us down a series of questions, any rebuttal or additional discussion from you?
I mean, it's incredible. I wasn't expecting it to get existential. It's like, why does it even exist? Interesting question. Yeah, no, I was surprised in a way that they forked the two lines essentially so concretely at this point. In a way, I was surprised a year ago when the Tab Ultra the Tab Ultra came out. I was really surprised at that form factor. I was surprised they didn't just iterate on the Note Air, the Note Air 2, the Note Air 2 Plus, so this is the fourth in the Note Air line, and it is a really excellent line of devices, absolutely. But I was surprised. And when I first saw it, I was, why does this exist? I don't need this. This is my notepad. It already does enough. I'm ink tablet PC. It is not a tablet PC. That was my feelings, and it isn't. But it's going there. And actually, I get a lot of comments. I don't know about you guys that like, when will there be a truly excellent? When will there be a truly excellent? E-ink PC, an actual PC, an actual Windows or Linux or even Mac. When will we get the use of?
Well, that was a bit of my argument in the unboxing, which is, can you really call it a tablet PC if it runs Android? And I think I have a hard time getting behind that term without.
but it's going there. And so the thing is, when it came out, I asked the same question as you, Voja, like, why? I don't seem to need that. And then I had it and I started using it, and I found that I used it for more and more and more. And then the color and Kaleido 3 being so much better than I think a lot of us were expecting it to be, so much more usable. And it made it like, right, actually now this is now a place I want to use all of these different apps. And I want to be able to log on to my work OneDrive and work on there, and and my own personal one, and all these things, and I want to use Google Docs and things on the device, and I enjoy it so much more because of that, and it became so much more than I was expecting it to. So actually, I think they're forked because they're now separate types of devices. I think when your question, who needs either of them? Well, you need to ask yourself, do you need an e-ink notepad, or do you need an e-ink productivity type of device? And this just gives you that little bit more flexibility for that.
So let's dig into that, because I think that's a really good segue. I'm curious, Kit, if you've noticed any noticeable speed or performance differences between.
I think there is. Devices. I think there's running there's I did the benchmarks a week ago or so ago on a live stream, and it is there was a comment that said the 8 series Snapdragons are streets ahead of the 6 series. It's interesting that it isn't just the processing speed, the pure processing speed. There's obviously a lot more in there, which enables it to be that much quicker, because it is faster, in my opinion. Side by side, you can see a difference with getting around. And I'll just. But
if you didn't have them side by side, do you think you'd notice it?
In noticeable, are you going to find moving around this, any more of a nuisance? No, between the two of them, you really aren't. So if I load up some apps,
I think the best thing is just put them both into balance, because they both like that, and then you can, because with HD they're both going to be hogged totally.
Well, because that's kind of one of the feelings I have is, Kit, you were talking about when the Tab Ultra C got the Kaleido screen. Well, these both now have Kaleido screens. So where are we really going to feel the difference between the two?
If I may interject, I think one of the points was kind of misunderstood. Maybe I didn't iterate it completely. Why does Tab Ultra C Pro need to exist when we already have Tab Ultra C? That was my point. Because other than the granted much more improved keyboard flip cover, I absolutely agree. But why wasn't that possible to just release for the Tab Ultra C? Like, if you have Tab Ultra C, and can anyone give me an argument other than Android 12?
I've got an argument.
Why? Yeah.
So the pogo pin placement on the Tab Ultra C is really awful. I think them moving that was a big upgrade. Now, could they have gotten that right the first time? Totally.
But I don't actually. I'm not sure. I think the jury's out on that one. It should be, but the fact that it's always connected to the keyboard case is a bit of a nuisance. And I think they need to. They need to have a software fix such that when it's in portrait mode, the keyboard case is not on, because that's really that's not been thought through properly. Excuse me. And so that's something that I think we'll see. And I've already had people, actually, it is a smaller footprint. It's more difficult to lap it the way it is, because you essentially used to only have the width of the device. Now you've got the width of the device plus the kickstand, and kickstands are never good for putting on your lap. I think we'll see whether that's a really good decision or not. But you're right. Like, you could have put that mouse pad, trackpad on the previous device.
Well, I think the other argument is, why can't we have pogo pins on a Note Air 3C?
Yeah.
Do we actually need both devices?
But regarding the pogo pin thing, I mean, that, of course, yes, Tab Ultra C and the original cover did have that issue. It would kind of wobble around. This one's not really completely pain-free either. I've had it wiggle around and disconnect as well. But all I'm saying is, with good engineering, a new cover for Tab Ultra would have been able to kind of hold it much more firmer in place with magnets and some kind of stuff, or some mechanical thing that just kind of slots in and just kind of holds it. So my question is, Tab Ultra C is there. we can't pretend that it's not only 7 months old device. And that, I think, is the biggest issue that I do have with the Tab Ultra C Pro, and why I posed that original question. I just wanted to kind of clarify that, so that it's not like not a full-on existential thing. It's like, oh, kill it. It's like, oh, I'm not going ape man here. There is some reason.
It's not an war of attrition yet. It's
no.
All right, I've got 2 more questions before we jump into the next round. So Kit, I want to clarify. So you leave your house with just your Tab Ultra C Pro being your only electronic device aside from your phone.
In terms of it, well, I have to use my school laptop at school.
Okay.
Just there's some softwares that you just have to use. There's some there's a lot of kids data and things like that. We use that. Of course, it's all accessed by browsers and things like that, and I can use the Microsoft on this device as well. But no, okay, I do if I'm going, myself, I'm going to be writing somewhere, I'm going to be, out and about. Yes, absolutely, I do take this device. I haven't had this device, I've been working with this device for like a week or so. It's been my carry to work for a week. And there's somebody has been asking about that. Have I been working out to to carry this thing around? Like it is my workout. That's what it is at this point.
I mean, 2.2 pounds is not nothing. Like that's laptop level
kilogram
weight.
Is about a kilogram, and it is ridiculous. I'm wondering whether, like, do I need to actually get the rather stylish looking case, the simple case, because I think then you would be able to go for that. Actually, I just need it in its notebook style. I'll take the normal case. That would be sensible.
So you just backed into my next question, which is, right, is there a use case for a Tab Ultra C without a keyboard cover or without a case at all?
So I personally, I think if you're going to buy the Tab Ultra C, the Tab Ultra or anything, I don't think you should buy it without the keyboard case, because I think that is the thing. And I think, like, if you've grown up with computers, and as anyone in my generation has, you've grown up using keyboards, and you've grown up manipulating software using keyboards, and it's a very natural thing to do. And still, even though I'm a fully confirmed Android user, I still find just interacting with apps with keyboard shortcuts just so very natural. The first question when I got somebody's old iPad Pro to try out, and I used it for a while, and I thought it's really great. I was like, yes, I'm going to get Premiere Rush, and it's going to allow me to use my keyboard shortcuts. And then I didn't, and I was like, that's like not the device that I thought it was going to be. And it's just like, why wouldn't you use that? And they have tried to, and there's quite a few on there. For instance, bring up this as well. I keep getting that one wrong. My apologies. The quickly switch into split screen mode is really good. So if I'm in Docs here, then I can very quickly go function split like this and call up a notepad or whatever I wish. And then I can very quickly just swap that away. And then I've also got this skip backwards and forwards between apps like this as well. These are all pretty neat little things. And it's just, getting around between different apps using like keyboard shortcuts. I just find it's more of a natural way to interact with so many different apps. And that's what, one of the reasons. I think the biggest one for that being just type text, and you've written it maybe with a handwriting recognition, if you like working like that, and then you just want to make a couple of edits. It's just, scrubbing through, hold shift and move across to select bits of text, Control C, Control V. It's just also
here's some love for you, Kit.
Also really natural. And thanks. Yeah, just cheer. It's like a football crowd. That's what we're hoping for, everybody here. There's some really great comments. We're going to have to spend a bit of time just really diving into these, but I think we're getting pumped for this argument and this discussion, and let's fire on. So does that answer your question?
It does. I think the biggest reason for me is without a cover, that bump affects me every time I try to write on it. Like I don't think you can use this device without a cover.
Do you use the Note Air 3C without a cover? The
Note Air 3C is completely flat without a cover.
Yeah, but do you use it without a cover? Does it live in it or not?
No, I don't. I actually really like the cover on the Note Air 3.
Yeah,
exactly.
It just lives in my cover because of the vertical thing. It's just like completely morphing constantly. Whatever I need it, I just flip it around and it just does it. And if somebody would have told me how awesome and big of a life change and usability change that simplicity of the vertical fold thing made,
the portrait orientation, once you figure it out, is amazing.
Freaking amazing once you do figure it out. But once you do, it doesn't leave you. It's really cool.
Oh, yes.
And it's just a transformative thing. And I really have to kind of connect to the thing that Kit said, which was, and I'm gonna try. Okay, well, we have it enough. The portrait mode. So it's so lovely for writing, exactly for the writing thing, because it's so much nicer for the vertical type of content, and it resembles a page format more than the landscape format. And again, I would argue for writers, you can use your keyboard that you like, you can use the language layout that you like, and you can use the portrait orientation. And you can't, granted, you can use your keyboard you want with the Tab Ultra C Pro, but you cannot do this with the Tab Ultra C with the keyboard cover. Now, I don't know, because I haven't received, has either of you gotten the regular flipbook cover for Tab Ultra C Pro? Does it have a vertical mode?
No, I don't think so. From the renders I've seen,
from the renders I've seen, it's just 3 slices, right?
Yeah. So why didn't they? What, that's why.
So that is a huge point for people who consider it for writing. This is something that Note Air and only Note Air 3C currently can do, because you can't use this cover for Note Air 2 Plus. The magnets are different. Note Air 2 didn't have magnets at all. And the Tab Ultra, Tab Ultra C Pro, Tab Ultra C Regular, none of them can actually do this. And for me, for writing, scrolling, designing, reading, all of it, I find myself using it pretty much 90% of the time in this mode. And it just, and the lovely thing about it is it's a small footprint.
Yeah.
It's a very small footprint. So when I'm done with it, I don't fold it. I just move it.
And it's surprisingly robust. Like it's not going to fall. Like it really is really sound in that regard.
And I think that, that many people where you've got a notepad like that next to a laptop. Yeah. And you've got your notes that you've handwritten earlier on, and you want to work from them, you want to work between them. Absolutely. That's the thing. Whereas this is okay. I don't really use it on this desk much. I do actually sometimes when I just, leave these big screens off. But for me, most of the time, if I want to do a big piece of work, I'm not going to pull out a laptop. I'm going to settle down with this setup, and I'm going to work, and I'm going to be as efficient as possible. Then I don't need another one of these. I've got enough screen real estate in front of me. But this is not for next to a laptop. This is instead of a laptop. And that's the difference. That's where, if you're looking for a reason to buy either of these two, one over the other, they're great. They're both wonderful. But what do you need? Do you want it to work? That vertical setup, it's like, having a clipboard next to your screen, typists use this type of thing. That vertical setup is fantastic. I was surprised they didn't add that in to this case. No reason why they couldn't put that case. No reason why a third-party case couldn't do that for you. But it is really, that is a benefit.
Maybe we'll get that in a Tab Ultra C2 Pro.
I don't know if you saw. I was just thinking.
Don't do that when I'm drinking. I'm gonna do a spit take, man. And it's freaking true.
Yeah. Okay, we're running out of time. It's time to get into the next round.
Cool.
The next round is going to be the best tool for a college student, and we're going to switch it up. Voja, you get to go first since Kit went first in the previous round.
All right. So just so that everybody knows, we don't know the questions, the format. That
I'm totally throwing them off. There's a curveball coming.
The format that we've actually agreed to was like, okay, Brandon, you're in between. You just get to throw these questions, and we kind of try and handle it on the fly. So, all right, college student stuff. Which one of these two? Just on the weight alone, college students need to lug around. Yes, sometimes they do need to lug around books or something like that. Still, yes, I do know some of them that do that. If it really depends on the central system that the student network is using or something like that. However, I think that the bottom line comes down to the OneNote support. Now, I personally despise with every molecule of my being OneNote as a platform and as a program. But that doesn't mean that I'm oblivious of the fact that tons of people are using it and rely on it, and a lot of students do as well. As far as that goes, if somebody is wondering, and I know that people are wondering, whether one or the other device is better for OneNote or not, I honestly think that they're exactly the same, because they're the exact same platform and they're both using the same cheat that Boox has implemented to kind of force the OneNote to work, which is not a good one. So the answer to that question is going to be about the portability. I disagree with Kit that the Tab Ultra or the Tab Ultra C Pro can replace a laptop. I'm with Brandon on this. I do not think that they can replace something like that, simply because the screen is a little bit too small for all of my regular laptop stuff that I would do. So for more complex sheets or layouts or organizing planning documents or planning platforms, I find 10.3 inches to still be a little bit too small. So on the other hand, if you're a type of student that is doing expressly a ton of reading and a ton of writing, which is, granted, a lot of students will write, well, then you need to go for the Note Air 3C, because it has a much, much better writing feel. And this is not just about the writing feel itself. It's not about the scratchiness or something. It's actually about how much strain you're going to have on your hand when you're writing. When you have a very slippery surface like the Tab Ultra and the Tab Ultra C and the Tab Ultra C Pro, I don't know how many are we going to end up having in the end. But if you have those slippery surfaces, your hand is trying to forced to control the pen more than what you're used to when you're writing on a paper. On this one, no, you're not. And the second point is also, I would argue, reflectivity. This has much, much better reflectivity than the Tab Ultra C Pro. And so if we find, where's the light? So we don't have the same light, but yeah, no, it is. So let's see, where's my regular light?
I don't think, but I agree it's better reflectivity. I don't think it's like, this does a good job for a slippery screen.
For a slippery screen, I agree.
I do agree.
It does a good job for a slippery screen, but this is not a slippery screen, and it does a better job than any kind of slippery screen. So for students, I think that from all of, and then the final aspect is price, of course. $650 versus $500. None of them are cheap, and students
and it's $650 before the case as well, for the keyboard case.
Yeah, and then you got to do it out as well. Whereas you pick this up for the regular price, and you get $20-$30 for a foldable portable Bluetooth keyboard, and you get the same exact functionality with your typing layout. And the final point would be portability. So you have you don't have 1.076 kilos lugging around with you.
So I don't, I feel compelled to argue the case for the Tab Ultra C Pro for students, but I don't disagree with anything you said there, Voja. And I think price is a big thing, and portability is a big thing. However, I don't think necessarily the Note Air 3C is the only option for students as well. And if price is a big thing, then there's other things you can get to allow you to do that. But I think that the having the microphones there as well, being able to access full desktop browsers, I don't think you know, I say can replace a laptop, and it has for a lot of laptop use for me. You know, the only time that I am ever using a laptop now is like when I'm away from home and I need to do photo or video stuff. And that's the only time really my actual laptop comes out at the minute. And maybe that's because, you know, I haven't upgraded it in a while. It frustrates me quite a lot, that laptop. But I think that the Note Air 3C is on, the Tab Ultra C Pro is on its way to doing that. And I think it will have more iterations before it gets there. Now, the Note Air is, did we say this is the 4 for the Note Airs, but really it's the probably 9th of the Note world. Am I right in saying that? We had 5 or 6 Notes? Yeah, with Note 5, wasn't it? Was the last one?
Yeah.
And so this kind of actual form factor is a complete form factor, and it has reached a point where it's really very, very, very useful, and it's right for a lot of things. Whereas this is it's a new category of device, and if you're someone, if you're going to carry around one thing in your student world, then make it out of these two, make it the Tab Ultra C Pro. But if you're going to carry around a MacBook because that's how you need to be seen in the university library, I'm being really facetious there. If you're going to carry around a laptop as well, because they're really useful things, then yeah, this is great. But this isn't your one and done, and I don't think it can be one and done. Whereas it maybe you're someone who's always going to enjoy having in your halls and your desk at wherever your flat or wherever, you're going to have a desktop PC, and you're going to have a dual screen setup or a big wide screen. Then you don't need a laptop all the time if you've got something like this. And you know, the iPad has tried to replace those laptops. I still think that it doesn't do it for me. This hasn't replaced, you know, all of Windows computing for me, of course. But I could get away with that at university. I could get away with a big computer in my house and this. I could absolutely see that. I couldn't get away with a big computer and just a Note Air.
But
all right,
can I just ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
But could you get away with just Note Air 3C and a keyboard?
I just don't think. I think that the flipping out and pairing it, and then setting it up and it not being just a one piece solution.
It's two things that you have to think about. Yeah, totally.
I do get it from a fold perspective, like the ability to just flip it open, especially with the new kickstand. I actually really like the new kickstand. It's really nice.
Me too.
The pairing is a non-issue for me. So like I have Bluetooth keyboards, you flip them on, you can flip between devices. That hasn't been an issue, but it's the convenience of, I have one thing, I fold it up real quick, I grab it, I go. Like I think if you are taking meetings or you're jumping to a lot of classrooms, that's where that ease of use and that portability comes in really, really handy.
But a 20-pound Bluetooth keyboard, is it going to actually be a nice place to type and work on?
So that was actually going to be my question to you, which is when you go from your home keyboard on your desktop to this, how is that transition for you?
Well, it's not great. I've said it a few times on videos. I wouldn't want to type here for hours, but that isn't the way I'm producing written content. My type of writing is important to say is actually for scripts, which I'm going to say, and actually using voice recognition is really natural for designing something that I'm going to say. It comes out in the way that I'm going to say it, and then I'm using the keyboard for just more like manipulating the device and more making those edits, and it's more editorial in nature. Yeah, exactly, and that's where typing is for me. I'm not a massively fast typist, you know, like I'm a 50-60 words per minute if I'm lucky typist. I'm not a, you know, type as fast as I think kind of guy, and I should have learned touch type. I'm getting better recently. It is cramped, but it isn't a Cherry MX board, of course not. And that's why I have this big thing here. But there is no laptop that can do that for me either. And certainly, so when I was using the Note Air 3C, I was like, well, I've got this inexpensive Bluetooth keyboard. You know, that is certainly not half a kilogram. And stick that in my bag, I just never got it out. Just didn't bother, and it was just because I didn't open this to do some writing in that same way that I do with this. I feel invited to write, and like for me, I'm thinking back to the Sony Vaio that I stole from my dad. That was James Bond's laptop, and I love this thing, and I was like, great, like I say stole, but
it was a beast though. It was like this one.
Yeah, it was. But like the keyboard, although it was a rubbish like membrane keyboard, looking back, the keyboard was nice, and it was a like I used to like think, I can't wait to get back and power up my laptop and type. And I look at this and I'm like, yeah, get it out and write. You got to feel, you want to get into that flow. And so much of the subjective quality of which do you want is what's going to give you that flow. And this does it for me.
Well, I think until we get to a 13-inch-ish device, I don't know that you can have a truly great keyboard. I find that although I don't love the keyboard on the Tab Ultra C Pro because it's maybe 10% undersized, the keys. I'm roughing there. I'm not 100% certain. But that little bit of difference really throws off my muscle memory. I think the type folio on the Remarkable is better, but the small modifiers on that also still bother me. So like the benefit of the type folio is the letter keys are normal size, but all of your modifiers are small. And so until we get to a larger device, I think there's going to be a keyboard trade-off unless you bring your own keyboard.
And another thing that I also found, like I found myself, because I've been using now Note 33C like a lot, and I found it actually completely replaced my regular Android tablet. So that one is no longer being used at all. Now that I have this kind of color content, I really don't use that at all. It started to replace my phone for majority of daily things that I like, because I just find it more pleasant to do it in this format. And finally, once I started using the keyboard as well, I started to transition from finding ways to modify my workflow so that I can go to my living room, sit next to the window, put this into a vertical kickstand format, and start typing with the keyboard in my lap. And this can be anywhere where I want it to be. So I can place it wherever I want, and then I can lazy around in my chair. I can do sideways, I can do upside down, I can do whatever I want, which is something that I always find limiting with that one device, one thing type of format. Tab Ultra C Pro, I tried it in the lap. Oh my goodness, you get almost seasick. First of all, it's like a T-Rex typing, and then it's all on your lap, and it can be done, definitely, but my wrists start really, really kind of hurting. Once you put it on a table, much better. But as far as that thing goes, I'm just saying that the Note 33C is continuing to surprise me and actually invites me to use it in different ways than any other device that I've actually had. And that in itself has to be a positive of some sort. I haven't reached to a conclusion of what kind of positive it is, but it's in process, right? But apropos the large device that you said, Brandon, just one very quick point. It would be such a cool thing if a color tab device would come out, and imagine this, if it had a dock that has a battery and a place where you can just big normal keyboard and a thing that you can, maybe it's just lives on your desk and then you move it somewhere where you need to. That thing with some software improvements could be a PC replacement if it actually gets there at some point.
All right, so let's hit a couple more questions. I think we've got time for one more round. Jean-Luc asked about, he's sick of hearing about the keyboards. I think if writing is your primary use case, then it's Note Air 3C all day.
I was really enamored with the screen feel and the writing experience on the Note Air 3C, and everyone was like, oh well, why not with the Pro Pen with the eraser, and the new scribe features are really cool, like the scribble out, like that's all really natural, and it is a pleasant place to write. But I don't think that the Tab Ultra C is unpleasant either. And
no, it's really, really good. I think the key thing, someone you all asked about coverless use before, and then Voja mentioned the kind of hover with the Tab Ultra C. I do use a cover on my Note Air 3C, but on my Remarkable, I do not use a cover. And that is so nice because your hand is actually sitting on the desk and not on the device. With the Tab Ultra C, my hand is like hovering this high, and it becomes fatiguing over time. You add in the keyboard cover, then it's even more. So I often will take it out if I'm actually going to write on it for a while, but then I have that wiggle that we talked about. And so it's a little challenging in that regard.
As far as the screen quality goes, that was the second part of the annoyed user question. It's basically they're exactly the same screen with the exact same performance. The only difference that you have is that the Tab Ultra C Pro will have a slightly more crisper image quality, simply because it doesn't have that paper-like folio structure on top. So if you are going for a little bit more crispness, taking into consideration that both of the screens are, by its very nature of Kaleido, dark, so the contrast is already boink down because of the Kaleido 3 screen. And then if you boink it a little bit further down with the slight, we're talking about very slight differences, but there is a difference. Note 3C is tiny little bit fuzzier. Tab Ultra C Pro is a tiny little bit sharper. So
but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I like
it.
I found the RGB matrix on the Ultra C a little bit distracting because you can actually see the subpixel array. I find that I don't notice
slight matteness, so it takes that away from you.
Yeah, well, it diffuses the light just ever so slightly, so that those of us who have OCD, like myself, don't fixate on it.
I like the clarity. I think like this is.
There's definitely perceivable difference, but for me, I also fall into the category of Note Air 3C makes it a tiny bit more organic-ish feeling because of those imperfections. So I don't get to see all of the little craziness things that do kind of drive me crazy after a little while.
All right, here was a great question from John Allen. He was asking, can you use a Bluetooth mouse with the Note Air 3C? The answer is yes. Yeah. Yes, it does work. All right, one last piece before
we with Tab Ultra C Pro because you've got a pointer.
I found it a little surprising that they didn't up the refresh rate in the home screen by default on that. I found the mouse cursor initially very sluggish until I upped it to balanced.
Yeah. Have you also used you've also increased the sensitivity slightly?
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, it's so laggy that the default settings are just bad. Shocking. The softer side of books is bad. No,
but it's just that one is surprising to me. Like they really need to patch that, just because it's not a great unboxing experience in that regard. You quickly realize that it's fixable, but it was tricky for me because I remember back in the Note Air 2 days, you couldn't tweak the refresh rate on the default apps. And so I didn't even go check it at first. And then I remembered that they changed that.
I agree with what you say, Brandon, but it's easy for you and me and Kit. It is not easy for majority of
they'll leave it in the default state.
Yeah, I mean, this is how you represent your device. The default state and the default stuff is extremely important, and Boox doesn't. They're equally bad. Note Air 3C or Tab Ultra C Pro doesn't matter.
There's one other thing that I don't know if anyone's made a comment on this, so it's going to be in my video. But have you noticed there's an issue on both of them with the new pencil, whereby if you write for some time with the pencil with the I'll put it on screen if that's all right, everybody. With the get it right again, Kit. With the more texture, if you draw with the more textured one with the pressure and the tilt, then after a certain number of strokes, you will freeze the device, and it will not have saved. Notice this. The previous I can't replicate this with any other tool, and it's on both. And I'm sure that it'll get fixed in the next update, but it is a bug. and it was quite frustrating because this is getting, you know, they're obviously getting closer to the kind of Scribe and the remarkable. You guys carry on talking, and I'll I'll tell you when this freezes up. But
all right, I guess one more thing for those watching at home. I'm curious, Kit and Voja, what operating system differences do you all notice that matter? That ultimately
between the two.
Yeah.
Instantly for me, for the tab thing is actually the widgets. And I do wish if they would actually just allow us to use widgets on a normal device, because
like, do we need two OSs? Like,
it's completely ridiculous. And I think it's completely redundant, but they had to make it different somehow. And they had to sell the whole tablet PC marketing thing somehow. And they're just trying to do that. But I think that has to be putting a strain on their development team completely unnecessarily. And ultimately, it's the customers who are going to pay for that, because if you have like now two completely different ones that you have to verify, and you have builds and you have tests and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, you could do twice as much on a single OS if you had it. So yeah, I don't see any real benefit. For me, tab is more complicated and more convoluted with options and where things are. And what really got me surprised is once I've gotten back because I've used Tab Ultra for quite a while, and then finally gotten back to the Note Air 3C and the old OS, I actually liked it. I miss the widgets, but everything else I like better.
It actually hasn't.
You want to add? Yeah.
It hasn't frozen yet, so I'm gonna stop doing that. So that's good news. But it hasn't updated.
Put it in the freezer.
I was looking for one, but we're talking about different OSs. Yeah, absolutely. Why not just give you the option? Like, actually, this is what Big Me have started doing. Incidentally, is just give you the option. Do you want it? There's not that much difference. I haven't put as much thought into the two different styles as Boox has yet. But I would say, just give you the option when you boot up. But I also, Brandon, I want to say one of the best videos on the kind of Note series and Boox in general was your video where you showed off how you can just add any launcher, and you use Niagara launcher on your Note Air 2 Plus. And I think that's it. And I think, again, this goes back to your point, Voja, that's fine for us. It's fine for people who are in the know, but most people are just going to whip out the box and use it as it is. And they don't want to go into all the differences and things. Many in the audience, I'm sure, do want to do that and be able to control everything. And if you are of that inclination, then you just go ahead and put your own whatever launcher you want. But that's time and effort.
When for someone like me who doesn't come from an Android ecosystem, it took me a second to go make sure I was doing that correctly, and so it's a lot of overhead.
And you are tech savvy.
Yeah, tech savvy, but just that first time you do it, you're like, am I going to mess it up? And then you look into it. All right, one last question to take us out, and Kit, I'm going to let you take this one first. Which device will age better?
Yeah, well, okay. That's tough.
And again, I didn't tell them they were getting this.
I know, that's
nice question.
You've predicted my outro really, and it is when before I'd actually tried the Tab Ultra C Pro. This was in a video that I was talking about. It was launched, but it wasn't in my hands or other reviewers' hands yet, so people could pay for it. And I was like, well, I've got to give people an idea of which one. And that's why we're discussing it and why we're talking about this, all the different namings and things like this, and why it is important to consider. Well, I think if you're buying this Note Air 3C and you're buying it to be your notebook replacement today, you will still be using this. You can still be using this in 5-6 years time, and it'll still be doing exactly what it's doing right now, and you'll be really happy with it. That whole time it will replace your notebooks. And there's not a lot that you're going to need to worry about that. And it'll do so much more for you as well, of course. Whereas I think if you're buying into the Tab Ultra C Pro, you're probably buying it. Part of you is probably thinking that's the latest and greatest. And it is the latest and greatest. It is the more powerful. It's the more capable. There are more options with this. But I think that this isn't the end point of this design journey that Boox and other e-ink producers are going on. The end point really is when they get software, and when you just have a laptop and you have an actual computer with with a desktop class operating system, and that I'm talking about it replacing my laptop for a lot of things, and it is, but when it can truly replace a computer for somebody, then that's the end point, and this isn't here yet. So I think that's and Jean-Luc has made a point there. Maybe that is going to impact that. Maybe it will. I think that's a very good question, and I think we're obviously been thinking of the same kind of point here. That right now, what do you want? Do you want to be on the bleeding edge? Do you want to try out a new way of using e-ink? And Voja, sounds like you're doing that and happy doing it on the Note Air 3C. But I find that this form factor is enabling me to do those extra productivity things, and so which is going to age better. I think we'll look back on this and last year as being quite a pivotal time in e-ink technology, and we'll think to ourselves, so that was when we started to be able to use e-ink for more than just being your note taker or your e-reader.
All right, Voja, thoughts?
So I think that's a very good point, and it's worth considering. It's worth considering what do you want it for right now? Because I think if you buy this today, next 6 months or next year, when there's another thing that's getting closer to that e-ink workspace, then you probably won't be interested to upgrade at that point, and that's money out of your pocket. That's also e-waste. That's that's a frustrating kind of thing, a new device that you need to set up. It's also for tech enthusiasts, it's a new device that you need to set up, and it's
well, there's weight there, right? You're going to slow down your actual productivity while you get up to speed.
For sure.
And I think there's a certain amount of mind share of the devices around you are pulling for your attention. And I'm often looking to reduce that. And so there's a very real cost there.
As far as which is going to age better, well, I think that we only need to take a look at the Tab Ultra and the Tab Ultra C. Not even 7 months, not even a full year that it has been Tab Ultra C, that it has been on the market, and the Tab Ultra C Pro is here replacing it, as far as I understand. I think that it's going to be replacing it altogether, and that they are not going to be producing Tab Ultra C anymore, that it's going to be discontinued. And that is my starting point when I'm looking at the Tab Ultra C. As far as Note Air 3C goes, well, you can still buy the Note Air 2 Plus, can you not?
Yeah, you can.
And the 2, right? Maybe.
Why we still have the 2 is a little.
I think there are 3 devices in this category now.
So it's just 2 plus
3C
and 3C.
Until we get a 3.
Then we get a 3,
which is a conversation for another time.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that it's very self-explanatory. Tab Ultra as a series I completely agree with Kit. It is an experiment, and it's an important experiment, I think, to do, but it is a risky experiment as well. Nobody else is daring to do it because they don't have the budget or whatever it may be. But I think that they've opened the door to something that maybe, I don't know, we will see what the end it will be. The point is, I had my Note Air 1, and there was a user here as well, considering I've had my Note Air 1 and serving me well, but I want to upgrade. Note Air 1 has been we're talking about 3 years now. So it would be 3 years. And this is the exact same device, same design. Everything is exactly the same. It's just modern technology, refresh, and everything. So we have the answer to that question. Note Air design is aging incredibly well. So I think it's going to age much, much more better than the Tab Ultra, simply because it's a more balanced device. It knows what it is. It doesn't have an identity crisis. It's easy for customers to understand, hey, what are you? I'm this and this. It doesn't need to try and explain through a PowerPoint presentation, hey, but I can maybe possibly do this, but only if you do this and that. It's a much, much more straightforward product. And as far as that goes, I think that, ultimately, it's just a way more focused product, and I think it's going to do well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to sum up, I think everything we've heard throughout the last hour or so, I think there's an audience for the Tab Ultra C Pro. I think if you are that audience, you will know. For everyone else, the Note Air 3C is an incredible package that I think aligns with the majority of users' use cases. If it's not clear which one is right for you, it's probably the Note Air 3C. I think the people who the Ultra Pro are speaking to, you'll know that.
Yeah.
But anything you guys want to add before we take it out?
Yeah, I mean, it is an experiment, but I think I'm right in saying it's been a really quite successful one for books. And I think it's really, the first thing it launched with was the Tab Ultra was the first one with the Book Super Refresh technology. Mm-hmm. I've just refreshed this screen. I haven't pressed refresh. Sorry, I've just changed from something that was on the ink for ages, and I changed back to the home page, and that was still there. And then I just watched it disappear without doing a full screen refresh. I was like, that's why Books is currently the market leader in terms of this type of tablet, at least.
Yeah.
And it's doing that. It's been an incredibly successful experiment. The first thing our contact at Books said was like, I think I asked like, will there be a color? Will there be a 13.3 inch? And they said, we'll see how the market responds. And that device was sold out in a couple of days, and the market has responded really, really well. The same with the Palmer, this tiny e-reader. We might want to mention something else about that later on, but we'll see. It's sold out. So this has been an incredibly successful experiment from Books, and something I think we all loved was the great battery life, and we just kind of forgive that having gone, and because the screen is no longer 2 weeks
gone.
Gone.
No. What is e-ink battery life anymore?
Yeah, what is battery life anyway? And it's fascinating to see the experiment. Where it's going. I agree. It isn't the complete device.
No. So yeah. I totally agree with Kit's point. I think that for all its negative points that I may have about the Tab Ultra C and the Tab Ultra C Pro, I think it's still a very important device to have. And I think it's extremely important for Books to actually do these steps until they perfect it. They haven't gotten to this instantly. They went through iterations. They went through Note 1, Note 2, Note 3. Then, Note 4 was not existing, but then they introduced the Note Air and tried, hey, what do you guys like more? Our Note design or the Note Air? So the Tab series is starting and trying to do that as well. And it's an iterative process. And that's why we are seeing short product lifespan that C Pro is replacing C in 7 months. Of course, users are going to rebel and things like that. This is an era of innovation because they got the BSR technology and they got a Kaleido screen that can finally be used, because none of the previous ones were actually usable. This one is usable. It's not great. It's very dark, but it's usable. And I think that they're running with it, and that's an important thing to see actually where they get. For the life of me, I don't understand why they can't just put a normal in-body camera without the stupid protruding camera bump thing. That is just beyond me, but maybe
that's what an Ultra looks like. That's what the Samsung Ultra looks like, and that's therefore what an Ultra looks like.
Yeah, but for me, I think Tab Ultra C Pro is an important device. It's not for me. I think Brandon summed it up perfectly. If you're teetering between the two, and you'll know if the Tab Ultra C Pro is the right one for you. If you're not sure, then probably it's the Note Air 3C. But as far as I'm concerned, this one did something that's really important for me, which is it makes me happy. It makes me very, very, very happy when I use it. And it makes me want to use it all the time. And as I said before, it invites me to explore more, to see what can I use it for, etc. And that's the bottom line for me.
And that's the subjective thing. And this one does it for me. Yeah.
Then there you go. Then, and that's
but exactly hang on. The referee here seems a little bit he's weighed in a little bit with an opinion that.
Yep.
That's the holy hand grenade just chucked in there, and
Yay!
Oh, this one makes me happy.
Yeah.
No, I do like my Note Air 3C. It's more of a reading device for me than a writing device. So, all right. I think we probably should call it there. Do like the stream if you haven't already. And thank you all so much for hanging out and hanging out with us. I think we're going to shoot to do this again in early December. Kit, do we have an exact date?
I think did we say the 12th, was it, or 17th? I can't quite recall. I think the 17th. 17th be Sunday. So Sunday on the way into the festive period. But who won? I mean, and have we done our have we completed our aim here? Have we
I think
my aim was to educate everyone. Did you have a different aim?
I think we've kind of concluded that we really suck at grudges. We can't really hold a grudge.
Well, and I think there's no real way in debating these things in a purely like I'm going to follow this side versus that side. I think there's too much integrity, which is we'll tell you where it shines and then we'll tell you where it's not.
Yeah.
And the Tab Ultra C Pro is great for a number of things. It's overkill for a number of other things. And that's just kind of is what it is.
Cool. Absolutely. Yeah. That's it. Well, if you're watching in the replay, carry on the debate and let us know. I'm always keen to hear like what you guys actually end up getting, or even if you're not in the market for a new one right now, which one you think, what we think about where they're going. And, I'd love to hear your opinions as well about what,
well, I think that's probably the right takeaway, right? Which is vote for which one you think wins down in the comments.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Let us
know. Also, do let us know in the comments below other topics that you might be interested in actually seeing. We do have our own things, so but we also take we do take a look at those things, and it's a good thing to actually kind of check that out and see if some of those suggestions inspire us to go a little bit, kind of in our own direction and see what to do.
Oh,
but
here's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mentioned something, I alluded to something. I read a review the other day that said that on their Palmer, they got, get this, they got 5 days, 2 hours a day reading, and the battery life went from 100% down to 75%. Do you think that's likely? 5 days, so that's 10 hours of reading, 25%.
No.
So it's tricky. I feel like I've got much better battery life on the Palma than you all have, and I don't know how to explain that.
Really?
Wi-Fi on or off?
Wi-Fi on, Bluetooth off.
Yeah, I don't keep Bluetooth on unless I'm using something.
I need to do a more scientific test, but I've had much better luck with the Palma.
It wasn't dreadful, but it didn't really give me an impression that it's going to do 10 days. That's not something with what was it like? No, 5 days with 10 hours a day use.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
5 days.
I don't. Well, is 10 hours a day standby, or are they referring to active usage?
They said standby the whole time. 5 days.
No, standby is fine. Standby is fine. If it's like active use of 10 hours, then
10 hours is a lot. I will say I do not use my Palma 10 hours a day.
No.
It's a nighttime reading device for me.
Yeah. And I like that it's so small, so that when you actually get really sleepy and it falls on your head, it's not really
it doesn't
a heavy
hurt
thing.
as much.
It doesn't hurt as much. It's like
my Note Air 2 definitely hit me across the nose a couple of times.
That's heavy.
Come on. Well, this is the thing about this referee. What's your verdict, Brandon?
Well, I made the verdict. You want to hear it again? For most people, Note Air 3C. Yay. For the people, and you'll know who you are, Tab Ultra C Pro. If you don't need the keyboard, then you're not a Tab Ultra C Pro user, in my opinion.
Hence, that's why there was so much focus on the keyboard, just to kind of explain it completely.
If you're not willing to splurge for the keyboard cover,
nope.
I don't think the Tab Ultra C Pro is worth the expense.
So rather than a civil ending that we had a moment ago, I'm just going to end it on a rage quit now.